you for allowing me to be here.
I would like to welcome you all to our virtual literacy event. Good morning, everyone.
I'm Michelle Hardy, the Giving Guru.
Greetings to all the students.
Thank you for having me. I am so delighted to be with you all today to share my love for fitness.
Hi, Dr. Houston. Thank you so much.
Hi, Tori.
Hi, Dr. Houston.
So different. But I stayed brave and I showed kindness to all, even when they weren't kind to me.
And they always come equipped with a smile and grace for when you enter the place.
He hugged Hannah. He started to cry. 2 tears burst from his eyes, and in.
Ask your parents for choices. All parents provide choices for them.
Means so much to me and my daughter Bria, and probably also for other parents like children of Cannon.
Tammy, wasn't this a great event?
Oh, it was incredible.
Chica and Kelly on the collaborative. Let's go!
The collaborative.
1, 2, 1, 2.
The collaborative.
What's that time?
On Facebook Tuesday at 7.
The collaborative. Who we have? Come on.
We have our leaders. We have our teachers and our parents. We have our authors. Story time at the end. Solving problems in our education system. Phenomenal women.
Join them on Facebook.
On Facebook Tuesday at 7. The collaborative.
It's that time. You're with Chica and Tammy.
The collaborative.
Phenomenal ladies. It's educational. On the Facebook.
The collaborative.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Collaborative. We are so excited to have you all to join us for this week's episode. Hey, Sheikah.
Hey, Tammy.
How are you?
Fine. How are you?
Good. You have a good day?
Yes.
Yeah.
We had our GT testing. Let me make sure I'm plugged in. GT testing for the arts.
Awesome.
See if students qualify for chorus. So I was happy that we were able to recognize, all students. We always tell them that everyone has genius. So
yes,
it's a way for everybody to shine.
Yeah, that's good.
How was your week?
It's been nuts. It's the end of the year. You know how all that goes. And Abby's birthday's tomorrow. So we have been running around acting like we're crazy over this 3-year-old birthday coming up.
Oh, I know she's excited.
She is so super excited.
So who do we have joining us today?
Oh, gosh, we're in for such an amazing treat. We actually have Dr. Roz Gaskins, who will be our guest this evening. And we have one of our awesome authors, Martinique Mims. So I'm so excited to have both of them with us. And we can welcome Dr. Roz to the show so we can tell everybody who we have with us. Hey, Dr. Roz, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And, I'm glad to be here. So excited.
Yeah, so let's talk about Dr. Roz. Dr. Roz Gaskins is a 20-plus year educator who has held several positions within education, including teacher, instructional coach, leadership coach, department chair, team leader, and that list just goes on and on. She's very passionate about education, about leadership, and about coaching. Dr. Roz is all about empowering. She during the pandemic, began the Village Leadership Group, LLC, which is an educational consulting business that's committed to building strong leaders, teachers, schools, and communities through coaching and training teacher leaders. Dr. Roz is also committed to building a professional learning community of teachers, which led to the start of the Village Live, her shows on Facebook, which is an opportunity for teacher leaders to share and learn about best practices. So incredibly blessed to have you, Dr. Roz. Thank you for being with us again.
And thank you so much. You know, you guys are doing amazing work, and I love tuning in each week. I learn so much from you guys. So again, you know, I'm all about trying to build my practice. So I'm watching the show and taking down notes because that's what I do. I love to learn, and that's what teacher leaders do. So I love to talk about teacher leadership. So thank you for having me.
Such an important topic. We're glad to see the work that you're doing, because teacher leaders are really what keep our schools actually running the way that they need to flow. So thank you for that work.
Yes, and we are admirable of your work as well and what you're doing with the Village. We're tuned in to your broadcast as well. So you are doing a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
And like us, we also started during the pandemic. I guess it was time where we got motivated with all of this extra time we had on our hands when we started the collaborative. And our platform is similar to yours, and we're bringing educators, parents, community members, and authors together in order to try to solve problems in education. So those of you that are regularly tuned in, our collaborators is what we're calling everybody. Please let us know where you're from. If you are an educator, a parent, community member, or author, we always like to know where everyone is tuning in from. And also share on your page so that others can be invited, and it just brings about awareness. We really like to put big topics out there, or topics that are important, because if we come together as educators and try to combat things, we will be much better off than trying to do those in silos.
Absolutely.
So thank you for everyone for joining us. And because we are an education show, you know, we always start with this day in history. So on June the 8th, 1968, authorities announced the capture of in London of James Earl Ray, the suspected assassin of civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. On this particular day. So we always like to bring up that fact. And for our guests coming on, now we know you pretty well, Dr. Roz, but for our guests to get to know you a little well, we have pulled together a This or That Teacher Edition.
Okay.
So just tell us this or that, which one you prefer. And now Tammy, she normally doesn't play the game, right? She
doesn't. I've seen her play.
Dr. Roz, that is not the answer.
I love you, but I gotta call you out.
So tell us this or that, and our audience members, you also can put in the comments, science or social studies?
Science, of course.
I'm a science person too. What about you?
Hands down, social studies.
Okay, she's always different.
Right.
ELA or math?
Oh,
math, hands down. I was a math coach, math teacher for years, so math, of course.
Math. What about you, Tammy?
So that I can play the game correctly, ELA.
But you wanted to say both, right?
Yeah, I wanted to say both. I love both of them.
I'm definitely ELA. I might mess some people's children up in math. Okay. And what about eating in the lounge or in your classroom or in your room?
Definitely the lounge. I'm a social person. I like to be in the midst, so in the lounge.
All right. And you can't tell by us being on the broadcast, but I'm an introvert, so my room is more attractive to me than being out and about, especially now. What about you, Tammy?
For sure, in my room.
I already knew the answer to that. Yes. Well, thank you, Dr. Roz. And one of the questions that I had posed on several of the platforms, and I really wanted to see if teachers and administrators answered the question differently. What are the characteristics of a teacher leader? So we'll start with you, Dr. Roz. What characteristics do you think a teacher leader possesses or has?
And before Dr. Roz answers, Stephanie Allen, we feel you, honey. We understand introverts.
Yes, definitely.
Yes. That's a great question. I would say a teacher leader is someone who's definitely passionate about what they do. And they want to learn. I mentioned that earlier. I love, tuning into your show because I want to learn. So they are lifelong learners. They have a quest for, building their practice. And also not only that, but they're very collaborative because they want to share what they know and help others build their practice as well. So that teacher leader they know that they have impact and influence beyond their four walls. So you're looking for someone who not only can lead, but also can follow, who can be a part of a team. Because again, a teacher leader, also, you want them to be a change agent and really be innovative in their school so that they can improve the culture of their school. So I can go on and on and on, but you definitely want someone who will think outside of the box and really can work well with their team, and share best practices. So they have to be collaborative. They have to love learning and sharing ideas with their team members.
I totally agree. And as an administrator, one thing that you look for, you cannot help to put forth a vision on your own. The vision has to be a joint effort, a collaborative effort by the entire school. And you really do depend on those teacher leaders. They are essential to a good principal. Tammy, you have done a great job building your teacher leader capacity, and you have great teacher leaders in Great Falls. Tell us, what you think those characteristics, or what's some of the characteristics that your teacher leaders have.
Well, and thank you, first of all. But that a lot of what Dr. Roz said is about the person and what they actually bring to the table. Like you have to recognize what you are offering to the space that you're working in. But I think the main thing that happens when teacher leaders step forward is they do see that big picture. So they see what it is that you're trying to accomplish for the school, in the school, and they commit to that cause. And so what I've seen at my school in particular are teachers who just have a passion for seeing through those things that I have spoken over the school about, where I see us going, what I want for our children. And they just have grasped that concept and committed to making those things happen. But those teachers are also selfless in they don't mind sharing ideas and collaborating. And they see one thing that Dr. Roz said that I think is very, very impactful, and it leads to that influence piece that she talked about, is it isn't about only what's happening within the four walls. This is a school effort. So what I do within these four boundaries that I have as parameters in those walls are things that are really important. However, those things have to match what is going to happen for the rest of the school, because they figured it out. Like, we're only as strong as the weakest teacher in that school. So we're all hands on deck, and everybody, and it isn't just my teachers. My instructional assistants are leaders and step up to help make sure that the vision of the school is carried forth, and it doesn't matter who's there.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up, Tammy, because I have some very strong people in my building as well. Our behavior interventionists, or now we're calling it social and emotional support, because we really haven't had any types of behaviors, really, because the culture has shifted so much. But she's definitely one that is strong and helps the teachers and supports them and helps us and supports us as well. I think there's also some misconceptions around teacher leaders as well, because I think a lot of people feel like, oh, those are your teacher leaders. Those are people that you're building to be administrators. What do you all speak to that for a moment? We'll start with you, Dr. Roz.
Thank you for bringing that up. But yeah, so one of the things that I always talk about, I think Principal Taylor, you already said it, is that, teacher leaders are essential. And, in order to build that collaborative school culture, you have to have your teacher leaders. And so kudos to you for recognizing who your teacher leaders are and pouring into them. But my whole thing is, we have to be intentional. That's my favorite word for the year, is be intentional, because we have to make sure that we're doing the work on purpose. So we have to plan for it. So you can't just say, well, this person want to be an assistant principal, so let me pour into them. No, we need to pour in those teachers who, again, have that passion, who have that drive. And they recognize that teacher leadership is a mindset and is not a position. I say that all the time. It's not about chasing to be, chasing some position, or I want to be department chair, I want to be team leader, so that one day I can be an assistant principal. No, that teacher leader want to be the best teacher. And they want to make sure that, like you said, it's about having influence on the entire school. So we just can't look for those people who say, well, I have these future goals to be a principal one day. I want to be a Dr. Houston. No, we're looking for those people too, but we also want to groom those teachers so that they will work collaboratively and they have those leadership skills so that they can do the work and take on that vision and making it happen. So we have to be intentional and making sure that we pour into our teacher leaders.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think another thing you mentioned about, having to build up our teachers that may want to be future administrators. And usually you find that out in some of your conferences with teachers. And as you're getting to know your teachers, what everyone's long-term goals are. And I think as a good administrator, you try to put people on the path to where they would like to go, or make sure they're getting the experiences that they need in order to get to where they would like to be.
One of the things that I just want to commend you on, Dr. Roz, is the fact that you do recognize how important it is to empower those teacher leaders who are fine with leading from the classroom. Exactly. And that whole aspect of just being an instructional leader for that classroom is very powerful when you bring about a cohesiveness like that within your school, where you have many, not just silos of those happening here and there, but you have many teachers who have embraced that mindset that you mentioned, because it isn't. Leadership doesn't have to be positional. I mean, it is. When you're the principal of the building, you have a position. So right. It is just a reality of where you fall within that leadership realm. But for those folks who are comfortable with leading from their classrooms, I applaud them and I celebrate them and I support them and I pour into them just as much as I pour into someone who says, you know, I do have my long range plan is to become a principal someday, and I want to start to develop those leadership skills. So I want to take on more responsibility. I embrace that, and I welcome people to have that as their mindset, because that does give me, like Sheikah said, the opportunity to know how I can help them to grow. But for those teachers who lead from the class, I'm right there with them too. Like, what do you need? What do you need from me to help you do the work that you need to do? And those are the folks who offer professional development to the other teachers. Like, this is what I'm doing in my classroom. They don't mind coming in and saying, and I have teachers who do this all the time. Miss Taylor, I'm using, and this was one of my first year teachers. She was using a program. And if you're a math person, you're probably familiar with it, Dr. Roz, but it's called Freckle. And she says, it's been so helpful and it's impacted my kids so much. Miss Taylor, is it okay if I share it with the rest of the staff in a PD? And I'm thinking, absolutely, honey, go for it. So I set them up like that all the time, because I think when you build that type of culture and they are willing to lean on one another and collaborate with each other. And it wasn't just her, like she had a partner from 4th grade who helped her to get it all set up. It's just that kind of leadership that makes everybody within the building understand, I know what my role is, and I know that my role is a part of this larger picture. And if I pull my weight and I do what I'm supposed to do, this machine will run very well and everything will go as it ought. So I'm very passionate about empowering teachers, because as you said, they're the cog in this machine that keeps this thing running. And we have to recognize that I could not possibly do all the work by myself.
Right,
She knows she can't get the work done by herself. You know, we depend on these folks. And I think it's important for us to help them to grow and develop in the ways that they look to improve, because that's the whole point of being a part of a continuous improvement cycle.
Definitely. Now, you hit on two of my favorite things, Principal Taylor. You talked about their role. So we have to be intentional about their role and their impact. And so when we understand that teacher leaders have impact and they have influence, I mean, that's a game changer. And so kudos to you for recognizing those teachers and identifying that they do have a large part in building your collaborative school culture. But again, you're having that conversation with those teachers. And so they do feel empowered. They do feel as though that there's a partnership between the principal and the teachers. So there's a respect, there's a trust. And some teachers, unfortunately, don't have that. And there's this large gap between the principal leadership and teacher leadership, and where the principal is running the show. And, you know, we have fake teacher leadership where teachers are sitting at the table. They may have titles, but they really don't have a say. They're simply, and I'm sorry, someone is at my door and I don't want them to, okay, never mind. But yeah, they, you know, it's not true leadership and they know that. And so there's toxic situations going on in our schools where the teachers don't have a voice. They don't have a say on anything that's happening in their school. And so they're not collaborative. They don't trust one another. They, you know, the parents, they don't have a relationship with the parents, the students. So those are, you know, the situations we don't want. So when you get rid of that huge gap between the principal leadership and teacher leadership, then again, you have your positive school culture where everyone feels as though they can work collaboratively. And the teachers know that they can lead, like you said, from the classroom, or even our specialists, our, the social emotional person in the building, our coordinators. Everyone is bringing their wisdom, their expertise to the table. And then the other thing you said, Principal Taylor, was that teachers are instructional leaders.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know a lot of the things that I needed to know about leadership until I was getting my master's and then my doctorate. And when I was reading these books on school leadership and instructional leadership, I'm like, I needed to know this, years ago. Why am I just finding out about group dynamics and the data inquiry and all these other great things now when I'm, getting my master's? When I could have used this when I was a department chair, teaching 4th grade and 5th grade, and trying to help my principal, with her vision and lead my team. And I didn't really have those tools available to me. And then once I started learning all these things, I started to help other teachers, and we were able to change the culture and dynamics of our building. So that is you hit on two of the things. And again, we have to be intentional about that. Again, I'm going to go right back to the word. If we want teacher leaders to really have a great impact in our schools, we have to be intentional. We have to have those opportunities to really bring those teachers in and really explain to them their role. And like you said, give them that training, give them that professional development, coaching, that feedback. They need to know instruction, and they need to know leadership as well.
And you're right. I think that cultivation of intentionality in your school will create that environment, because you do have to be intentional about the way that you lead, but you also have to be intentional about your planning. Like I love that that's your word of the year, because that's something that we have been really, really focused on this school year. It's the pandemic, and we don't have but a certain amount of time allotted for us to get done all of the same things that's been expected from us forever. So we're going to have to approach this with intentionality. We have to plan intentionally. We have to deliver intentionally. We have to look at the data intentionally. And so that intentional attention to whatever's happening in the school, I think, does help to create that climate that you described, Dr. Roz, as being one of collaboration and camaraderie.
And I'm also glad that you made the point about sometimes the teachers are at the table, but they're really not, their opinions really aren't being sought. And I think sometimes that's a struggle for leaders, especially new principals, how to figure out how to put your vision forward, but also have teacher input into that. And one way that I navigated that is that we have a vision meeting at the end of every school year. And so we look at the whole, everything from, how we manage the discipline, what systems we have in place, what went well this year. And it's really kind of like a big reflection meeting. What went well, what needs to go, what needs to stay, what programs worked well, what do we need to change? And everyone is present. Everyone has that input. And, what I let everybody know is what we decide is what we're going to do. Even if what you spoke about or chose wasn't the thing that was the majority, we have to be one collective voice and do what we've all decided to do. That's in the best interest of children, that is student-centered.
And I love that Sheikah was doing that at her school. She had a different approach than I was. We were doing that within our instructional leadership team and my school improvement team. We would always sit down and take a look at all of the structures that were in place and just kind of make those decisions for the next year. But after she shared how she conducted her meetings with the entire staff, we started to do that with teams too. So everybody gets to be a part of that discussion, because what I found was even though we were doing it within our the leadership in the building that was identified leadership within the building, we still weren't hearing the voices of everybody that might have had a thought or might not have been comfortable saying it to their representative who was on that team. But when you give everybody the space to, it's kind of like she could describe it, a work session where you're kind of working through these things. It gives voice to everybody so that the next year you have no struggle with, will everybody buy into the vision? Because it's all of our vision.
Exactly. And then I don't even have to say like, well, nothing about me. What did we decide? That's what we're going to do. That's what we decided on. So that's the vision. I think there's also another misconception around teacher leadership as well. Sometimes teacher leaders get targeted or named like, and I'll just say what the truth is. Oh, here comes the spy, or here comes the person that's telling everything. How do we get rid of that negative connotation to teacher leaders? And the fact that they're loyal, I think, should not be something that they're ridiculed about. But how do we combat that?
Ooh, that's a good one. That is a good one. And again, it goes right back to being intentional. What is the purpose and role of that teacher leader? And this whole school needs to know, yes, that teacher leader will be sitting at the table once a week or once a month with the leadership team. Yes, that teacher will be coming to your weekly planning sessions to get your input. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to look at the data, and then that one person is going to come and relay the message. So as long as we're intentional about the plan and the structure and the process on how we make decisions, then that will kind of alleviate that mistrust, where people think that there's some secret thing going on behind our backs. No, we came doing collaborative planning. We showed you the data. We talked about the problems, and we talked about the different solutions or possible solutions. And just because your idea did not get chosen doesn't mean that it wasn't heard. And so we just have to keep having those courageous conversations. And another misconception is that when you have a positive school culture, everyone loves one another. And that's not the case. We're going to have disagreements. We're going to have conflict. We're going to have disagreements. But guess what? As a leader, as a change agent, I know how to have courageous conversations with my colleagues. So when I hear the murmuring, I can pull that colleague, teacher to teacher, and have that conversation. Say, hey, we're in it together. We're both committed to our students, because that's what it's all about. And so just because, that idea or that rumor you heard, may have offended you, let's talk about it. Because this thing is bigger than us. It's about our students. So sometimes teacher leaders need help on developing those leadership skills to have those courageous conversations. Team building activities, all of that is important. And again, I didn't learn it until I was working on my master's. But I wish I would have known how to have a courageous conversation, because I would have avoided all of that. But again, we can't think, everything's going to be wonderful, and the birds will be chirping and everything's going to be great. You're going to have disagreements. There's going to be little rumors. Oh, she thinks she's all that because of whatever. But again, if we can get back to the vision, get back to our goals as a team, then that should iron it out. And again, teachers need to know their power. They have influence. So just stay committed to the goal.
I think too that one of the things that combats that is when the focus is on children.
Exactly.
It's really difficult to get off course, because if we keep the focus, then all that extra stuff kind of is not important. And so it gets just lost in the translation. Like, I don't even know, what are we talking about? Because that's kind of how we operate. And at Great Falls Elementary, I can say this, And you can ask any teacher who is at the school, because they will not mind sharing that this is just the way that things happen. But my literacy coach actually says, and she'll say this, she said it in PD, she said it to progress monitoring. When we talk down there, we're one band, one sound, because we are all speaking that same language, because what we're doing is student-centered. And when you focus on the kids, it makes it easier for us to not get sidetracked by what everybody else is doing if it's all for the good of the children. And then when there are those times when something creeps up, because sometimes there are disagreements or things that happen that people have to work through them, that's when I say, you guys need to go and work through this. Like, you got to work this out. We're adults and we're going to work through. I've had to sit down in mediation meetings, and as Dr. Roz said, we've had not just crucial conversations, but some really, really tough conversations that have to get to the crux of what's going on, what happened, what went on here. And sometimes they have to be vulnerable enough to admit, I stepped out of line or whatever it is. But we're adult enough to keep the focus, because this is about children, not about us. Right. And keep moving toward the goal that we've set for making sure that we're addressing what's happening with our kids.
Definitely. I'm glad you said that, because you're right. It doesn't, just because you have some things that may happen or some conflict, because when you have people, there are going to be some disagreements, there are going to be some challenges, there are going to be some things that happen that you have to know how to work through. And, bringing people to the table, like you said, having those real conversations, that really is a part of making sure that things are mediated well. And then you can go back to what a number of people said, making the main thing the main thing. So I think that that is completely true. And Stephanie Allen mentioned that sometimes, we do have to be cognizant of making sure that we're not just focusing on the few voices, so everyone feels like their voices are heard. And I think things like the vision meetings or some things do have to be put to the entire staff and not just the leadership team sometimes, to make sure that everyone feels included. So I think all of those were really, really great points. One thing that I've picked up through my studies on my dissertation work was that sometimes another thing we don't do as leaders is differentiate our professional development. So as a teacher leader, what is the professional development that you value the most? And when I was doing my research, what I heard teachers say was just that they had it was kind of like more like a module system where they were able to pick and choose. Tammy, I'm gonna let you fix that.
Thank you.
Bring it back. They're a module system where they get to pick and choose, what they would like to focus on, or just some type of self-selected PD. What is the PD that teacher leaders, or as a teacher leader or teacher period, that you value the most?
Well, two things, and I agree with you. One of the things that we started to do in this area, in my school in particular, is how we call it conference style staff meetings or professional development, where the teachers know what is on that list of what topics and what the sessions are. And like you said, they can choose. So it's sort of like going to a conference, a teacher conference, where they can find out if it's, if they want to know more about classroom management or a framework for teaching or data analysis, whatever it is that they think, whatever that weak area is, that they can sign up for that particular content. So another thing, one more thing, want to make sure that the second thing is having that additional follow-up or feedback from others. So being observed or being coached by someone on that particular topic. So that is the second thing that's so important to professional development. Yes, you know, we can have these differentiated PDs, but then what's the follow-up? What does that support look like? And so my favorite thing is coaching. That's why I am a coach. I love coaching because I think that is where you're going to get more bang for your buck, because teachers will get that ongoing individualized support and training. And it could be real time, because when you're coaching, sometimes you're right there beside the teacher, giving them that guidance and that feedback. So you have to give that type of follow-up to your professional development.
I agree totally. And lastly, and when you talked about the coaching, one other thing that I've instituted at my school is what we call model classrooms. So the teacher leaders are definitely instructional leaders in that capacity, to where other teachers are able to go in, observe what they're doing. They're able to sit down afterwards and talk about, the lesson, how do you do this? Real true collaboration, but making sure that they have that time to do that.
I love it.
Thank you. And, I think all of that is really important. One other thing we wanted to do this year was learning walks, which we'll probably institute more next year, because I think that's a great piece too, especially in Title I schools, where a lot of times there may not be a lot of traffic. Sometimes in more affluent schools, there are people there all the time. And in other schools, rural schools, you may not have that. So I think the learning walks are really important, just to make sure that, everyone is getting feedback, and then different types of feedback, because I think feedback from your peers is a different type of feedback than when it comes from somebody from the leadership team.
Definitely. And I wanted to say something about that as well. I'm sorry. But when you talk about learning walks and also peer observations, one of the benefits of doing that is that teachers learn, if possible, they can have input in what the focus area will be for that learning walk or for that peer observation. Because again, you don't want your colleagues to come in and just kind of observe and give feedback on everything. You want to, again, my word for the year, intentional. So, have those observation meetings or those sessions to make sure everyone really understands how to conduct a peer observation and how to deliver feedback. Because again, you don't want those negative consequences when someone goes in blindly. They don't know how to effectively observe their colleague or give feedback. And then those learning walks are crucial. I know when we do them here in this area, sometimes we may have outsiders coming in. So not just leadership team members, but we may have specialists and different educators from the county, from the district. And so, the teachers are like, oh my God, this is going to negatively impact me. It's going to be like evaluative. But again, if we're intentional, if we communicate the outcomes and the expectations of the learning walk or the peer observation, then it will be beneficial. And then the teachers will welcome the experience, because they know at the end of the day, I'm only going to get better.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's important. One of the other things, Dr. Roz, that you certainly are welcome to speak to, but one thing that I've found that is very helpful in my school with the teachers is allowing them that time to self-reflect. So this year, one of the things that we put into place were video observations, where they had the opportunity for me to come in to conduct a video observation. They watched the observation. I watched the observation. I gave them a reflection form for them to fill out. And then when we debrief about that observation, we kind of talk through the tool. And so they're able to look and see the kinds of things that are happening within their classroom. And that's an opportunity. We talked about the differentiated PD, and we do offer that, but I've noticed that them being able to self-reflect has really grown them and increased their capacity to even be able to help and lead their teams. So it's been a really neat experience.
And I like what you're saying. You're saying that you work with that teacher, and give feedback as a follow-up. So it's not that you gave the sheet of paper to the teacher and say, okay, fill this, form out and reflect on your own. But as as a follow-up, you have conversation with that teacher, because some teachers reflect, but then they may not be as critical, or they may not see things that you may see.
Exactly.
So
or they're overly critical,
Or they're overly, either way. And so it's good to have another person to kind of guide, the conversation and ask questions. Well, what did you think? Well, why did you say that? What part of the lesson gave you that idea? Or what you should do next? And why do you think that that's your next step? How would you modify the lesson if you could do it again? But why? What part of the video let you know that the students mastered it? So again, I love what you're doing. Can I work at your school?
Come on down here. Come on down here.
Well, Dr. Roz, we appreciate what you're doing with the village, and the fact that you are a teacher leader yourself, an instructional leader, and that you have even started your own platform. You're intentional about the things that you're doing, even with your business startup and the things that you're doing with that. So we applaud you. And there are some great leaders on. Josh Tovar is a principal. We have some great teacher leaders on as well. Sanitra Williams, I know, is just recently, she'll be starting as an instructional coach next year in her position. And some people really brought up some great points. Katrina Hill, about having an accountability partner. I think that is phenomenal.
It is. Definitely.
Stephanie Allen definitely brought up some great points as well. So thank you all for joining us and being a part of the conversation. I just wanted to end with saying that, just because you haven't been like a dubbed teacher leader, or that you're on the teacher leader team or the administration team or whatever you call it, doesn't mean that you're not a leader, because there are some leaders in the school that may not necessarily be the people that are on a certain team or a certain
many of them.
Right. And, these are sometimes your people that are shutting down some of the negativity. They're making sure that students are protected. They're making sure that the vision is put forth without having to even be at the table. So I think all teacher leadership in several capacities is invaluable and very valuable for a great administrator. For a school to thrive, you need all types of teacher leaders. So anything that we can do to help develop that, I think is important. And also to make sure that as administrators, we're bringing forth these points and to other administrators that, we've got to put resources into our teacher leaders. We got to build them, and not just to be administrators, but to also be great, just being in the classroom, being instructional leaders, because that's where all of your work is being done in the classroom. So you've got to put your resources there and make sure that everybody knows that they're valuable and bringing that to the table. Any closing remarks?
Thank you again for having me. I could talk about teacher leadership all day. So thanks again, but definitely you hit the nail on the head. It's a mindset. So the first year teacher, the second year teacher can be teacher leaders. It's all about how, again, we're intentional about developing those teachers as leaders. So Thank you so much again for having me. I look forward to coming back again.
Oh, we'll have you definitely. And I do, as an administrator, sometimes I want to pass a collection plate when my teacher leaders are saying some things, and I'm like, oh, I want to clap and applaud and put on my shouting shoes, but I don't. I'm good, because hearing it from them is different. It comes across totally different than hearing it from me. So I definitely value my teacher leaders.
Thank you. I'll work at your school after I work at Principal Taylor's school. Okay, you have a promotion. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we love to have you, Dr. Roz. Come on down here.
Yes. Well, it is story time. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Roz. I'm going to bring forth our featured author, and thank you again for being with us.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Hi, Martinique.
Hey, Martinique.
Hello. How are you?
Doing well. And what are you going to be reading for us?
So I'm going to be reading my new story, Through the Colors of a Butterfly. I just published it in February.
All right.
Awesome.
Before you start, I'm going to read your bio so everyone knows who you are. And
hey, Bill.
She heard story time, and that's what she knows.
Yes.
Where, well, you know what? I might have to read it after you read, but I'm gonna have it.
Well, yeah. I first wanted to say I love y'all's introduction. The collaborative. I was like moving back here. I'm like,
all right,
Thank you. Yes, I'm going to have to find it. It's on this desk somewhere. So I will read your bio as soon as you get through reading.
That's okay.
We're going to turn it over to you for story time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you all so much. The conversation was awesome. And I think I saw somebody I know, Martinique Brown. I saw you in the chat. So, hey, thank you all so much for coming and supporting, the collaborative. This is awesome. So I just really wanted to quickly say a little bit more about the book before we dive into the story. I'm not just going to read the back of the book. Now, this book took me about a whole year to make, just going through the whole writing process. And so this story is about a young girl named Unique who must confront her fears after her family moved to a different side of town halfway through the school year. And being a child with physical differences in a new school creates some worries for our character Unique. But everything changes when she is asked to take care of the classroom pet. So we're going to join Unique on a magical journey of self-discovery to really celebrate and find out how unique she actually is. All right? All right. So another little thing about this story, this is my first copy of the book. So that's why it has this little strip here. This is the author copy. So I'm going to read from that. And I'm really excited to share with you. And I know I saw a little one on the call, so I wanted to share that this is called the title page. And I had some dedications to teachers and staff because I worked at a school, which really inspired this story. I worked with third graders, but I wrote a dedication to all of them and just said thank you to the readers and to the caterpillars who dared to become butterflies. And then this is the title page here. All right, let's get started. Unique could not believe her family was going to move. Mama, what about my friends? I love them so much. I don't want to leave, said Unique. Honey, I understand, but you can still visit your friends. Plus, this is going to be a great adventure. Trust me, you'll see, said Mama. Yeah, Unique. This is a brand new start. We're moving on up, said Star, Unique's older sister. On the way to her new home, Unique could only think about all the things she would miss. Being captain of the soccer team, winning school spirit week with her wacky tacky costumes, being a leader for class assignments, and most of all, her friends. Mom and Star were laughing and talking in the car, but all the while, going to school the next day lurked in the back of Unique's mind. She was worried no one would like her, or maybe she wouldn't like them. Do you see how scared and nervous she looks? After settling in their new home, the next morning, Mama cooked a special breakfast, but Unique wanted to hide and couldn't eat a single bite. Her stomach flipped and flopped. Meanwhile, Star scarfed down all her waffles and Unique's waffles too. She was excited to go to a new school. "It's going to be okay, Unique. Just be yourself. That's what I'm going to do," said Star. Unique rolled her eyes and said, "But what if they don't like me? Because I'm different. Going to third grade in the middle of the year is no good." When Unique arrived at her new school, her teacher, Miss Mangu, welcomed her. "Unique, we're so excited to have you. In my class, everyone shares their favorite color. What's yours?" she asked. But Unique did not say a word. She just shuffled her feet. "That's okay," said the teacher. "You can share another time. You're welcome to have a seat at your new desk." It had only been 5 minutes, and already Unique felt she didn't belong. The other students raised their hands before she could and talked to one another so easily. "I don't know anything about this school, and no one likes me," thought Unique. At recess, Unique wanted to play soccer, but she was afraid her new classmates might not want her to play. She felt different and not so good. "I thought I was special, but I'm not Unique. Not at all." What do you think's going to happen next? After recess, Miss Mangu called on her. "Unique, what do you think about butterflies?" she asked. Unique was still afraid to speak. "I don't think she knows how to talk, Miss Mangu," said one student. Unique sank low in her seat. "That's okay. Maybe you're not quite ready to share your thoughts," said Miss Mangu. "But you came to our class on an exciting day. We are selecting a very lucky student to take our special classroom pet home for 2 weeks. And because I love new beginnings, that lucky student will be Unique." Unique shook her head no, but everyone looked at her. She didn't feel lucky at all. "Wonderful! Unique, you get to take home our pet friend Pillar, the caterpillar. Then, in 2 weeks, you will share your observations with the entire class," Miss Mangu said enthusiastically. Unique, trying hard not to trip, walked to the front of the class and silently took the jar. She couldn't believe she had to take care of a worm for 2 whole weeks. And even worse, talk about it in front of the whole class. "What am I supposed to do with a worm?" Unique asked Star when she got home. "That's not a worm. It's a caterpillar. This is going to be magical, Unique. You just wait and see," said Star. Unique sat and stared at the worm. "I don't see what's so special about you," she whispered. Still, every day she gave it a big, juicy leaf and water and kept it warm by the window. Until one day, something happened. Pillar had wrapped himself up tight. The caterpillar had turned into a cocoon. "Why is he hiding?" she asked aloud. Then days passed and nothing interesting happened until one day, Unique saw the cocoon had been broken open and nothing was inside. Unique opened the lid to the jar and out flew a beautiful butterfly. "Star, Star, look! Pillar turned into a butterfly. Its wings are the colors of gems," Unique said delightedly. "See, I knew it would be beautiful, just like you. I hope you have sweet dreams tonight," said Star confidently. Unique wished Pillar good night and quickly fell asleep, excited for school the next day. All through the night, Pillar's wings fluttered, creating a big color cloud in the room. Do you see all the beautiful colors? Then, in a haze, Unique found herself standing on a tree branch. She couldn't believe her eyes. She was in a forest and was as small as a pin top. All of a sudden, she felt a gust of wind as a ginormous butterfly flew towards her. It was Pillar. He motioned for her to hop on for a ride. Suddenly, Pillar's colors began to change, and so did the world around them. Unique's whole world turns the color of the butterfly's wings. Purple for power and creativity. Unique has power within herself. Blue water and skies reflect how helpful, thoughtful, and caring Unique is to her friends and family. Yellow for how happy and silly she can be, bringing joy to those around her. And pink for the kindness and compassion she gives others. Pillar returned Unique back to the large oak. Then Pillar spoke. Unique, you have many gifts. Don't hide in a cocoon. Let everyone see who you really are. Shine, shine, shine. But what if they don't like me? Because I'm different, Unique asked. Don't hold back just because you may be different. Those colors represent each part of you. And just know, you too can be a butterfly, said Pillar. Then just like that, he flew away. Unique woke up filled with joy and couldn't wait to get to school. She walked into third grade with a beaming smile. The students looked at Unique differently because she had on more than just a beautiful outfit. She had on confidence. She's not afraid to show off her soccer skills at recess, and she talks to students she never spoke to before. Here's a fun fact. So one of my third grade students I work with, I put her as a character in the story. She sent me a picture of herself in third grade. Miss Mangoo asks Unique to share what she learned about their friend Pillar. Unique takes a breath and walks to the front of the room and said, this is my favorite part. Through the colors of a butterfly, I fell into a dream. I heard the flutter of wings, breathed the air and flowers around me. I discovered the gifts and amazing things I bring. I admire you, but will never forget what I can do too. Through the colors of a butterfly, I am unique. I don't have to hide or choose not to speak. That's no good for you or me. I am beautiful and different, and that's okay. No one is just alike. We all have beauty we can bring. Through the colors of a butterfly, I believe in me. When she finished, the class cheered and the teacher beamed. Thank you so much, Unique. It's great to hear your voice in our class. Whoops. Now it's time for us to let our friend Pillar fly free. Goodbye, Pillar. Thank you, whispered Unique as she opened the lid and let Pillar fly off. The students cheered. Unique now realized that her school was not so bad, and through her own colors, she has something unique to bring. The end.
Thank you. That was a wonderful story. And several people have made comments. Martinique is saying, hey. Let's see. Stephanie Allen definitely wants to adapt this for her preschool class. And she also asked, was it on Amazon? We put that information in the comments.
Yes, it was awesome, Martinique.
It was.
Thank you.
It's so unique. I loved it. I loved it.
Yes. And my daughter is also looking as if she's me in the comments, telling everybody her name. We're going to have a conversation after this is over because I thought we went over internet station, but
yes.
Reason to say, see, this is why you don't have a phone. But our segment about what you're reading is we have your book.
Yes.
Butterfly. So that's why she has my phone. She loves the book.
Oh, good. That's good to hear.
Yes, it is a great book. And I'm going to read your bio so everyone knows who you are. Martinique is one of the independent authors that Tammy and I are working with She has a great book, as you just heard, and we help try to bring some equity around independent authors getting their books into schools. So our catalog is a way that we do that, as well as the course that we have for authors to learn how to navigate that entire system. Martinique Mims is a slam poet and recently published children's book author who writes while looking through the lens of history and the triumphs and challenges people face, especially communities of color, and the transformative times we are currently living in. She currently works as a recruitment manager for AmeriCorps called City Year, which is an education nonprofit seeking to provide support and resources to public schools and communities across the country in 29 U.S. cities and 2 international affiliates so that all students feel a sense of belonging. Her goal is to uplift children through her stories and encourage them to be who they are and realize they are somebody and should not think less. So thank you for that amazing story, Martinique. We loved it. And your
loved it.
Energy is also very infectious. And
that's the theater in me. That's what it is.
Multi-talented. We love
yes, girl. Yes.
And since we have so many educators on, do you also do authors visits virtually?
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
I just did a big visit with like 100 kids in DC. So I'm here.
Oh, that is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to make sure you put your information in the comments so that people will know how to get in touch with you for authors visits. And people are asking about your next books that you have coming up as well. So thank you for joining us.
Shika, put a link to the catalog. Somebody asked about getting a hold of the catalog.
I definitely will. And it is right on our website, createandeducate.solutions. So thank you everyone for
thank you guys.
And let me go ahead and close us out. Hang on with us, Martinique. And we're thankful for all of you that stuck around for story time. We definitely also, because we're problem solver administrators and educators, we like for students and parents to know about reading at least 20 minutes per night. So we encourage all families and children to make sure that they're reading every night. So thank you again for joining us on the collaborative. And I'm going to close us out. Thank you.
See you guys next week.
Oh, this is not the right one. Okay, well, thank you all for joining us. We're going to close out. I'm having some technical difficulties. Thank you all and have a great night.
Yes, have a wonderful evening, guys. Good night. So I'll end the broadcast.
Okay.